So shooters and reloaders out there, Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone. And this is chapter 3 of our video series, video book on the Savage Model 11 VT in 308 caliber and getting that rifle set up. Chapter 3 is the importance of fire-formed brass for doing accurate reloads. And let's get into that discussion. Fire-formed brass means brass that has been shot in that rifle so that that brass has been pressurized and is now formed to the chamber of the rifle that you see in the background. And then if we use that same brass for that same rifle, we can achieve the best consistency of ammunition, which will lead to accuracy. So we have to shoot some rounds through that rifle to get the fire-formed brass. One way is to use factory ammunition, as you see in the center of the screen. That's Hornady factory ammunition. I've got 60 rounds of that, and once I shoot those, we'll have 60 rounds of fire-formed brass. But I also have a lot of 308 brass that you see in those red MTM reloading trays. And that brass has already been full-length resized, ready to load and shoot in any 308 rifle. If we shoot that ammo in that rifle back there, we will get fire-formed brass, which is what we want. Those cases are all Remington Peters. Now, a lot of shooters only shoot factory ammo, and that's fine if they choose to do that. It's an expensive way to shoot. And we can get better and more accurate reloads by loading the ammunition ourselves. Now, reloaders, a lot of reloaders simply full-length resize all their brass and all their ammo, and most of the time they have no problems doing that. But there are exceptions. And that's why it's important as part of the reloading package to have the precision mic made by RCBS or a Hornady comparator, which we don't have here. But the precision mic is in that green box on the left. Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, our comments are basically about bolt guns and single shots. Precision loading is enabled by using the fire-formed brass and doing all of the precision loading steps we're about to talk about. So let's keep things simple for now. What we want to do is get some fire-formed brass based on factory brass, this Hornady. And we also want to get a lot of fire-formed brass that we can use based on Remington Peters brass. So if I use my precision mic and I go ahead and measure the factory rounds, this gives us a reading of the headspace of the ammunition, and it goes from 0. It's actually 00, and that means that this round is right at the minimum of standing specifications for 308 Winchester. 2 of the rounds out of the 20 were at 0. Now, 7 were at .003, which means that these rounds have 0.003 more of the length between the datum line on the shoulder to the base than the 0. And then the rest of the rounds in there are between the two. So if we use those 2 readings as a model, then I can go ahead and measure my empty brass that's been full-length resized and just choose the ones that are between 0 and .003. And so what I've got here is a whole bunch. There's 40 of them that are in that range, the same as the Hornady. So if I go ahead and load these and shoot these in the bolt gun, I'll get fire-formed brass just like the Hornady brass. Now, interestingly, some of my other full-length resized brass were as big as 15. So instead of 000, it was all the way out to 15 thousandths longer, and I seriously doubt whether those would even chamber in the rifle. Now, it's full-length brass. We wouldn't have known that those would be problem cases without this instrument or a Hornady case comparator. So I know these 40 are good because they're in the same range as a Hornady. So we're going to go ahead and keep things simple right now and go ahead and load these for fire formed brass. And as a bonus, who knows, it might shoot very well. And if it does, I've got a good load that might be very accurate. We're going to be using Winchester 760 powder and these fine Nosler 165 grain ballistic tip type bullets, as you see here. The charge is going to be 50 grains of 760 powder in here, and the primary reason we're doing this is to shoot those rounds to get fire formed brass. And it'll be fun to see how well they shoot. So you see, since this brass is all ready to go, it's all been resized, it's been trimmed, it's been cleaned and polished, and it's been primed and all this kind of thing. Notice that when a case is in the press, we've got the rifle powder die. This is the long one, adjusted so that So what we've done here is use the Lee long rifle powder through charge die, which is the right one for the 308, adjusted the die so that when the ram is at full stroke, the full stroke occurs in the powder measure, the auto drum powder measure also. And turns out that 50 grains is a compressed charge that's below maximum, but we don't want a compressed charge, so I'm dropping it down to 47.5 grains. Well, glad to report that that accuracy is still good at 47.4, 47.5. We got one at 47.6, so the accuracy is good, but we got a little bit of powder leakage. So I'm going to have to tweak that drum a little bit and see if I can solve that. The Nosler reloading manual for that bullet doesn't give any overall lengths. Nothing for overall lengths anywhere. So we just go to the Lee, and the Lee gives us a maximum overall length of 2.810. So let's just go ahead and load them at 2.800. That happens to be what the Hornady ammo is also loaded at, maximum length, or the cartridge length of 2.800. So there's the last one being seated. And there's our loading information. Now I have the Forster 308 Winchester bullet seater, which is a fantastic inline bullet seater that gives very low runout. But for the purposes of doing the fire formed brass, let's just go ahead and load these with the Lee bullet seater, and the idea is to get fire formed brass. We'll see how it compares with the factory Hornady. The rounds pack very well and ready to go to the range. We're ready to go.